But what is your reasoning behind why Joel should not come back, would you say?
So again, and I mentioned this to you before we started recording, and I'll say it for everybody to hear. I'm a Celtics fan who likes Joel Embiid. I don't like his foul baiting, but he was taught that a lot in his training and, breaking into the NBA because he's such a large dude. He is, very big. So they teach him like foul bait because it's easier on your knees, it's easier on the legs. And I think even without that, he's still a top player in the NBA, top three, one of the best players in the league without that. However, he has injury history. His knees aren't the best. The injury that he has right now, the meniscus tear. Mm-hmm. I had a similar injury, I want to say 2 summers ago. I did not need surgery for mine. All I needed was physical therapy. And it still took 3 months before I could even start thinking about getting back onto the basketball court. So where there's 2 different forms of the surgery they can do.
Right.
There's the quick one that you can have a quicker return, or there's the long-term one. If I remember reading it correctly, I'm pretty sure they went with the first option. They went with the quicker return.
Yeah.
If he's to come back and get hurt again, it could genuinely mean the end of his career. And I would hate to see that, not only for the Sixers, but for him, for the fans, for the league in general. It's just not something that's worth the risk. To the point where, like, if the 76ers were in the mix for the 2 or the 3 seed, and you could kind of like visualize a deep playoff run with him, maybe it's worth it. But where you guys are in the play-in right now, and there's, I can't speak for 76ers fan. I don't know what the vibe is on your guys' end, but from what I see, and leaving bias aside, I don't necessarily see a deep playoff run from the Sixers. Mm-hmm. And I just don't think it's worth bringing Embiid back to try to force something and potentially risk his future.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people that would agree with you and have that similar outlook, even on the Philadelphia side of things. I was extremely frustrated with the Sixers organization for their management of his knee early on in this year, that this meniscus issue was not something that was that one and done fall by Jonathan Kuminga and the meniscus tear. This was something that he was fighting through for several weeks beforehand, and that was essentially the last straw. So I was very frustrated back then that he was playing through this type of thing, because that to me was extremely irresponsible and led to the point where we're currently at. And I am with you that the injury history is concerning, that these are things that I think it's the Sixers' responsibility to be the adult in the room and shut this guy down when he needs to be shut down. For the other side of things is, from all expectations, and they've kept things pretty guarded as far as what information they're making public with this, but it's expected to be a 6 to 8 week recovery. At this point, we're over the 7 week margin. We still don't have a concrete timeline for when he's coming back. If he's healthy, I'm cool with him playing. And the reason that I say that is there's a finite number of these playoff runs that we're going to get with Joel Embiid. And we've never seen Joel Embiid at his 100% healthy throughout a playoff run. This year is probably the best chance to get that. And for the Sixers team, it's been ugly lately. I'll be the first one to admit that. But every player on this roster has been brought in to play next to Joel. That everything makes sense when he's here. Like a guy like Buddy Hield is going to look excellent when Joel Embiid is the guy having gravity and opening up the floor for shots for him. A guy like Nico Batum, his strengths as a player is he's a quick catch and shooter. He makes excellent entry passes, and he's a good defender. That's a tailor-made player to play around Joel Embiid. When you take him out of there, it looks pretty limited and pretty rough. So, like, the team is currently constructed, it's tough to talk yourself into it, but I think it makes a ton more sense than if Joel's back. And obviously these are conversations that need to be had with the doctor and the people that are taking a look at the imaging, the recovery, all that. But I think if he's healthy and good to go, you absolutely bring him back, because you never know how many of these you're truly going to get.
No, and that's a fair point. And funnily enough, I can use that same argument on my end. Whereas, like, if they wait and bring him back next season, not only do guys like Buddy Hield and Nico Batum have the experience of playing in the Sixers organization, they have a whole season to work with Embiid. And if Embiid stays healthy next year for a playoff run, I think that would be far more important. Because to your point, you're right. Like, there is only a finite number of playoff runs the Sixers have left with him. I don't know if it's going to be because he retires or if it's because he asks out, whatever it might be, or, God forbid, a season-ending injury. I would hate to see that. I hate seeing injuries, any player, any team, any time of the year. It sucks. It's it's part of the sport, but it's not great. It's not a
Yeah.
great feeling. Like you want everybody to be healthy. You want to see any sport really at its best product when everybody is healthy. And so, like I said, my big concern is that he even if they say he's fully healthy, he might not be fully healthy. And I
Sure.
think it'll be very telling if he does come back in the first game, maybe the second game, if you can really tell, you know.
Yeah.
And I would just hate to see a career like his cut short due to injury because they want to force something.